For the video this week, I want to show you how to make what I call a wavy disc. And I mean, you can do anything with them. You can paint them. You can make them in a particular color of clay if that's what you prefer. I've done them. I had some questions about this necklace that I showed previously. Just stacked a bunch of them with seed beads in between. And I just finished this necklace with also some wavy discs. I've been exploring matte and shiny effects, and so I'm not going to go into this pendant, but I know you're going to ask, so I just used some stamps that I got from Barbara McGuire, and it's a nice little swirl shell kind of shape, and just did my black with a piece of foam in the pasta machine to give me that texture, and painted, or not painted, but pressed in the stamp. And then when it was all cured, I painted the inside with varnish. So that gave me the shiny and the matte. So anyways, I really like that effect, and I thought I'd play around and do these little wavy discs. So basically did the same kind of thing. This is black on black, so you probably won't see it very well, but I just put a little dot of gloss in each of the dots that I made, and painted a little gloss on the edge. And so anyways, quite an effective thing, I thought, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought I'd show you how to do the wavy disc, and show you as a completed project how to put it together as an earring, because I really like this shape and it dangles quite nicely. So that's what we're going to do. So this is the color choices that I've made for today, and I started off with just some scrap clay, and potentially, if these ever sort of wear back, because there's Perfect Pearls copper powder on it, and you could use copper acrylic paint just as easily. But if it ever wears back, you might have some of the original color showing. So you can use scrap clay, but be aware that if it ever wears back, it's going to show. So use a color that's going to go well with what you're choosing. So I have just some scraps left over from doing the bracelet. And so anyways, I've rolled this on a second thickest setting on my pasta machine, which was a number 2. And I'm just going to cut it in half, and I'm going to double it. And that's Premo Clay, but it really doesn't matter what kind of clay you use for this project. And so I've got myself a little round cutter, and it is 3/4 of an inch round, and it doesn't matter again what size you use. It depends on what size disc you want to end up with. If you wanted a smaller disc, you could roll these even thinner and put 2 layers at a 3 instead of 2 layers at a 2. And if you want a thicker disc or a wider disc, you know, vice versa, you can put it at your thickest level. But anyways, just for today, I'm just going to cut a couple of circles and make a pair of earrings. So I'll just move that aside, and then it's just quite simply I'm just pinching each the edges all the way around, and like on the black ones, I left some thick areas because I knew I wanted to varnish the edges, and I wanted that to show. And on these, I left them fairly thin. So once you get them pinched, you just kind of pinch and pull. So you're pulling on one side, pinching on the other side, and you're going to get yourself kind of a fluted edge. And that's basically what I'm looking for. There's other things you can do. You know, if you don't like that, you can take a ball tool and just kind of roll it on those edges, and you'll get an even more fluted look to it. But these are fairly random looking, and I think that's basically the charm of them. You could put gloves on if you don't want fingerprints, because fingerprints will show. I myself don't get too concerned about it because they're handmade and I want them to look handmade. So then I'm going to take my little cutting tool, and you could use a small straw or you could even poke a hole, doesn't matter, and try to find the center and poke a little hole. And then I like to use these edge and pearls to sort of clean it out, but a toothpick would do that too. And then I've got a ball tool here, or dotting tool. It's a Kemper one, and I'm going to use the smaller end on it, and I'm just going to put some little random dots on it. And you can put as many as you want or as few as you want, it really doesn't matter. I give them a little twist, I'll get a nicer round shape that way. That's probably plenty. Then I'll turn it over. So these are not hard to make. So, and that's basically it. I'll make a second one so that I got a matching pair. Kind of pinch and pull. So that's not bad. I'm only doing this one because I did it on the other one too, but I think you can do the job with your fingers. That'd be good if they'd be close to the same size. So sometimes if I'm looking for the center, I'll just put a slight impression first and have a look at it before I commit myself to putting that hole in. It's a little easier if you're looking straight over top of it, but I can't really do that without showing my gray hair. So if you got lots of dots on one of them, put lots on the other one. If you got a few on one, put, you know, because you want them to sort of match. They're never going to be exactly the same, but okay, so that's ready for the oven. So when I do them, I make a bunch of them at a time, depending on what I want to do. But for today's purpose, I have some already made. So that's just going to go in the oven at the regular temperature you bake your clay at. And again, I would bake it for an hour. So I don't skimp just because it's a little thinner than other pieces. So I'll put that aside and I'll bring out the stuff that's already prepared. Oh, wait a minute, I'm missing a step. Before we do that, we have to put the perfect pearls on. So I've got a makeup sponge that's been used before, and I'll just get some of this perfect pearls on because we want to bake it with the perfect pearls on. And I'm going to add paint later on to the dots, but I'll show you what it looks like if you don't. And that's kind of why I went for this bluish green base color. So you can get a pretty good coverage, and it's up to you whether or not you want to do the sides. So I did some in the copper pen pastels, and I could see virtually no difference when I compared them to the perfect pearls. And you could take acrylic paint and brush it on the same way, skim over top of those those dots and bake it that way, and it'd be pretty strong. So there, that's ready for the oven now. So I'll move those guys aside. Okay, so now I've got these ready to go. So these ones already have paint in them. These ones don't yet. And that's what they look like when they come out of the oven. And I've actually already taken a bit of paper towel and just kind of wiped them off. So you can see that Perfect Pearl stays on pretty good. I did get a little bit off on my towel, but that was just excess. So I'm going to seal them afterwards anyways. But you don't have to worry about adding the paint and then having it come off. So what I've decided to do is, first of all, I'll do the painting. There's some little components to make earrings afterwards. And I'm using Craftsmart from Michael's in a turquoise sort of color. It's called Ocean Breeze. And it's a really pretty color. So whatever color you decide to do in your dots is up to you. On these ones I use this kind of green because I had that in the pendant. So you just make it match your pendant. And so anyways, I'll pour a little bit into a container. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this, depending on how messy you want to get. You can just go ahead and use your finger and smear that paint on and get it into those holes and wipe it off. Or you could be a little more precise and use like a small dotting tool or something like that and just stick the paint down in there. So this way is slower, the other way's faster, but it's messier. And don't worry about it getting it over top of the little holes because you're going to wipe it off. So usually when I do something like this would be a kind of an antiquing method. I like to use a paper towel first and then use a baby wipe. So if I'm going to use a paper towel, it sort of removes the paint without getting down, getting it too wet. So that's actually not too bad. I'm going to get the baby wipe. And then just very, very lightly just clean up the rest of it. Any little spots that sort of come out, you can just put a little bit more. You know what, this ball tool's too big. Maybe I'll use the end of my etch and pearl and just stick a little bit more paint back in that spot and let that dry. So I do one side and let it dry, and I'll do another one and let it dry. Maybe we'll do the other one with this etch and pearl, and then flip them over and do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I'm not going to bore you by showing you everything because it's pretty much the same thing as what I'm doing here. Once I get this one done, we'll move on to the ones that are already painted. Okay, that's good. I'll wipe that off. And with a bit of a baby wipe on there, wipe that again and let that dry. So that's that stage is done on that one side. And here we have some that are already ready to be assembled. So you can, I've gone ahead and sealed these already. I use Duraclear matte varnish on them. You could use a shiny varnish, you could use a Varathane or the Minwax polyacrylic, or your favorite varnish, doesn't really matter. I've chosen to use a matte. And now I'm going to assemble these into earrings. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut a length of copper wire. Use a color that matches your project. I'm going about 6 inches. I've got one here cut already. So 6 inches is more wire than what you're going to need. I like to have extra though, because it just makes it easier. You got more of a handle to pull on. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers and probably a little more than 2 inches up. I'm just going to make a bit of a bend. And then I'm going to feed that short end into my my wavy disc. So bring it up and let's get my pliers out here. So I'll put just a little bit of a bend in here, and I'm holding fairly good pressure. This is long enough, I don't really need pliers to wrap it around, but I could use the pliers and wrap it around. So I'm going to go maybe 2-3 wraps at the very most. And then I will decide before I cut it off which side I like better. So if I decide this is the side I like better, I'm going to cut it in the back of that side, so that all my cut ends are behind. So I'll pull this back a little bit before I cut it, because when I tuck it in, it's going to come forward a little bit. So cut it a little shorter than what you think you want it to be. And then tuck that in. So now you got nice little wrap in the front and a nice long piece here. And I've chosen to put a few crystals on. You could use beads, you could use, you know, whatever you want. So I'm going to start with a bronze crystal and kind of a teal greenish blue crystal. They're just rondelles. And I'll make a wrap loop at the top of that. So I want my loop to be sideways, the same direction as the disc. So I want it to come out this way rather than front to back. Just it makes it easier when you put your earring on. So figure out where you want it on your round nose pliers and use that same spot when you do the two of them. So I explained in another video on how to do wrap loops, so if you want to refer back to that, I'll put a link to it. So I've got a loop here, and I'm going to take my end with my hands and just fill that distance with wraps. And again, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to cut it in the back, the same side as the other cut. So pull it back a bit so it's not too close. Snap that off, and then use the pliers to tuck that around. And straighten out that loop. So when you do your earring, then I'm going to open the loop of the earring from it's in the back, and I take this and I flip it over so that the front side is facing front. Put it on the hook and close the hook. And that's your little dangled earrings already done. So then, like I said, you can either varnish it before, but I actually found it easier on this other pair that I did. I actually varnished it after it was already on. Then I had a handle to hold it, so that's really up to you. And that's how I do my wavy discs. So they're quite a neat little element to add, either for earrings or in your projects. I hope you enjoyed that. and I'll see you next time. Bye.